All right. We are live. Okay, there we go. Now it is exactly the time. I shall call this special meeting to order. And I don't have my computer open just yet because we were running a few minutes late, but I presume the first item on the agenda is the agenda. There it is. No. Okay. Do we need approval on tonight's agenda? I didn't see it on there. No? All right. Well, let's dive right into it. I guess. Acting CAO Drew Heineman, please take it away.
Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. Tonight marks the beginning of a very important process. The municipal budget is the most significant policy document that Council and administration produce together. It outlines how we deliver services, manage growth, and invest in our community over the coming year. It reflects your priorities and our shared commitment to the residents of Cochrane. Administration is presenting Council with a complete budget, complete and lean budget, one that has been thoroughly built to maintain services that our residents rely on while advancing Council's priorities for the future. As the saying goes, the truth about a city's aspirations isn't found in its vision, it's found in its budget. We believe the document before you reflects both the practical needs of today as well as the ambitions that shape tomorrow. Our hope over the next several days is this is a collaborative process, not adversarial, as we were just recently discussing. This is very much a collaborative process. We share this budget together, and our hope is that we can work through this process, and by working together, we'll ensure that Council's objectives are met, and we continue to elevate the quality of the services and the community experience that our residents expect. I need an approval. Oh, sorry.
All right. Yes. So, Council, we do have a recommended action before us.
Sorry, I guess I was jumping ahead. Yes, we need, the recommended action is that Council temporarily suspends sections 4, 9, 12, 11 of the procedural bylaw for the duration of the special meetings for November 17th, 19th, 20th, and 26th.
I see Councillor McFadden's light is on. Would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I'd like to move the recommended action.
Any further discussion? So we're just suspending our procedural bylaw to allow us to move a little more freely through this very lengthy document that would otherwise be quite cumbersome. Okay, call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Please continue.
That's why I always need a little bit of assistance from Ms. Robertson with the procedures. So thanks for your patience. But as I was saying, this is really about a collaborative process, working with Council, working with our staff. I'm very proud of our team in preparing this budget. We think we've got a good budget for you, and we're going to work through that beginning this evening. And this process also comes at an exciting time. It's a beginning of a new council term and the first budget cycle for our newest council members. We've structured the presentations with that in mind. They're clear, transparent, and aligned with your priorities. As you recall, during council orientation, you're going to see through this process, many of our directors come up, share their priorities in their specific areas, and go through their budgets. Throughout the presentations, there will be many opportunities for questions, opportunities to seek clarity. We'll be collecting and compiling all the questions that you have. We do have a parking lot for members of council who've been here in the past. If there's a specific item, we can put it in the parking lot and revisit it at a later date. We can answer specific questions about any of the different items that you have as well. And we'll provide responses back to council at the earliest opportunity. I know, Councillor Singh, you've already sent in some questions, which we appreciate in advance. One of the other things, there's been considerable discussion around full-time equivalents, or FTEs, and staffing. And you're going to see some of that in tonight's presentation. Moving forward, administration will provide consistent reporting and refer to FTE numbers only. So we're going to try and be consistent throughout the next 3 days as we present the budget. You'll also hear the term restated positions. For clarity, this refers to job roles that have been significantly reevaluated or redefined due to changes within the organization. This involves updating job descriptions, required skills, and reporting structures to align with new organizational needs rather than simply filling a vacancy. We're confident that the budget presented reflects what is required to responsibly maintain our current service levels and to support the future of our community. Thank you again. We look forward to collaborating with you throughout these deliberations. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Alim. And oh, sorry, before I turn it over, again, just in terms of the agenda for this evening, I've just gone through our welcome. We're going to be turn it over to Mr. Alim for the Understanding Cochrane's 2026 budget. Mr. Blanchette's coming forward to talk about the public engagement which helped frame this and shape the budget. Ms. Dunsmore is coming up to provide an update on staffing requirements. She will also be providing a presentation of our compensation plan. Mr. Hubble will be talking about the rate-based budget and capital projects intro. And then Mr. Tooth will come with the rate-based budget. Mr. Sulo will come with the capital projects budget overview. And then I'll do wrap up and next steps. So we got a lot of ground to cover today. And then of course, as I've discussed with you, the objective here is ultimately to put us in a position on the 19th to hit the ground running, get through the operating budget, and then on the 20th, get through the capital budget in detail, answer all your questions, and then ultimately we do have the 26th as a backup date if we need that as well. Before we move forward, of course, strategic plan foundations, financial and environmental stewardship, I think financial with the budget document being one of the most important documents that council does. Intentional relationships, we're always trying to build those throughout the process. The built environment that we're building within our community is one of the foundational elements. And then organizational resiliency, our community continues to change. We need to have the staff and the structure to support the growing community that we're aspiring to build. And then certainly the aspirations from council are community identity, a vibrant economy, open spaces and natural areas, connectivity, and livability. So these are some of the things that help shape that. You'll hear more about the community engagement. Now I'm going to bring Mr. Alim up. I jumped the gun a little bit there. But he's going to talk about what our annual budget process looks like. It's a fairly robust process and where we are today. So I'll turn it over to him. Thanks for your patience with me as I did the intro. Mr. Alim.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am pleased to kick off the draft 2026 budget deliberations. With respect to the budget process, we are at the stage of council deliberation and review. However, over the last 10 months, it is a collaborative effort between all divisions whereby a significant amount of time is dedicated to setting goals and objectives, planning and prioritizing, communication, research and analysis, and reviewing and revisions. It is these efforts that have brought us to where we are today, the draft 2026 budget for council consideration and approval. So with respect to budget principles, these are used to ensure the budget is in line with council strategic priorities. For the 2026 budget, previous council approved 3 of them. First one being the implementing a fiscal framework. This initiative began in 2025, and it is a 2 to 3 year process. In the spring of 2026, Council will be discussing the policies for investments, debt, and reserves. Passing the baton, this is ensuring the financial position of the town is healthy for the new council. And third, infrastructure lifecycle management, and this is to continue the asset management initiative that began in 2025. The story behind the numbers. Today's session is about understanding the story behind the 2026 draft budget, how it reflects our community's priorities, how costs are changing, and how we can make informed, sustainable decisions together. Tonight, we are not just talking about numbers. We're talking about the story behind how these numbers shape our community. Every dollar in this budget supports the services, programs, and infrastructure that make Cochrane a safe, connected, and a thriving place to live. For our new council members, this is an opportunity to see how all the pieces fit together, from community priorities to service delivery to the financial framework that makes it all possible. So this is Cochrane, population of approximately 38,000 residents that call it home. A place to grow, prosper, and work. And a place to relax and have fun. But with all this comes a level of service. The quality of living in Cochrane is supported by the level of service. Cochrane's fundamental purpose is to provide service to our residents and businesses, which have a direct impact on their daily lives and well-being. These services include community safety through fire and police services, community wellness from family and community support services, parks and recreation, our library, caring for assets and amenities such as road repairs, street sweeping, snow removal, and facility maintenance, and providing essential services such as clean water, wastewater, and waste removal. But with providing the level of service is the cost. Unlike a business or a corporation or a nonprofit organization, the town incurs expenses to operate. And these expenses can be in many forms. They can be labor costs, which include salaries, wages, and benefits, materials and supplies, overhead costs, which can be in the form of insurance, utilities, and administrative costs, and equipment costs such as vehicles, machinery, and tools. This graph depicts a study completed by the City of Edmonton about key expenditures in municipal operations across Canada. So I'll just go over briefly what each category is. So professional services, examples would be a municipality hiring subject matter experts, contract services. Other expenses could be insurance, material, could be operational, like office products, or cleaning supplies, or construction material. And employee benefits. These are benefits provided by third party for things like dental, disability, and life insurance. The importance of this slide is overall, the average inflation for these expenditures were 10%. So keep that number in mind. This graph shows the total municipal expenditure per person as of 2023. So the town of Cochrane ranked among Alberta's top municipalities for the lowest per person spending in 2023. I don't have the 2025 number. According to Fraser Institute report analyzing 26 municipalities, Cochrane had the second lowest per person spending of $2,142 behind Chestermere, which theirs was $1,652, and ahead of Airdrie, whose costs were $2,187. From 2009 to 2023, Cochrane reduced its inflation-adjusted per person spending by 15.9%, outperforming most municipalities, including Airdrie, which reduced it by 2.1%. The study focused on municipalities with populations over 17,000. Cochrane, at that time, the population was only 34,900 residents, with an average annual growth of around 4%. Across Alberta, municipal revenue and spending trends varied, but overall, average inflation adjusted per person revenue fell by 1.9% between 2009 and 2023. So now we're going to jump into the numbers. And this is the proposed 2026 revenue requirement. And we're just going to just walk council line by line. And we're going to start off with the 2025 budget. So in 2025 budget, there was a level of service. And I've explained to council what that level of service was that we provided. So the cost to provide that service in 2025 was $69.4 million. And how we funded it? We funded it by $29 million from general revenue and $39.5 million from taxation. And that left a revenue requirement deficiency of $988,698, or 2.63%, which was approved by council. Jump forward to 2026. So council approved maintaining the level of service at the 2025 level. So that's where you see that the $69.4 million as our starting point. Council also approved the 2% inflation on operational expenditures. And the 2% only applies to things like material supplies and contract services. Areas such as reserves, grants, long-term debt are excluded. Growth of 3.75, that is the assessment growth estimated for 2026, and that is going to generate an additional revenue of $1.5 million. Non-discretionary expenditures, greater than 2%. So non-discretionary expenditures are essential costs that the town must incur in its operations and typically are difficult to eliminate or negotiate. These would be things like principal interest payments on debt, employee benefits from a third party, software agreements, gas and electricity utilities. Of interest, the non-discretionary expenditures increased by 18% from 2025. This means that administration had to go through an exercise to reduce other operating expenses and finding efficiencies to mitigate this increase. Discretionary expenses greater than 2% is $727,987. And discretionary expenditures are non-essential costs whereby the town does have the ability to control. And examples would be advertising, contractors, research, subscriptions, memberships. So in total, the total expense to provide the same level of service from 2025 is $72.8 million. And how it's funded? $30 million from general revenue and $41.6 million from taxation, leaving a revenue requirement deficiency of $1.3 million, which is equivalent to a 3.25% proposed tax rate increase for 2026. So how do we compare to other municipalities within the area? Canmore, and just to reiterate, all these increases are proposed. So Canmore, 7.10%. Airdrie, 6.6%. Camrose, 4.65%. Spruce Grove, 4.57%. Okotoks at 4%. City of St. Albert, 3.9%. And the town of Cochrane is the lowest at 3.25% proposed. The average increase for these municipalities is 4.87%. And I just provided the large cities just for information. So Edmonton is looking at a 4.39%, while Calgary is looking at a 5.40% proposed tax rate increase. So this was a table I showed last year. Unfortunately, they don't have the 2025 data. But in 2024, ZooCasa compiled the residential property tax rates for 25 municipalities in Alberta and ranked the regions lowest to highest. Just for information, ZooCasa is an award-winning prop tech company, and they compile data using technology to provide information for real estate agents. So this study showed that Cochrane was the fourth lowest community at that time for property taxes, which demonstrated that the town's maintaining an efficient and effective operations. This is a historical increase. For our new council, I just wanted to show them what's been our budget and actual tax rates over the last 10 years. So the lowest being in 2021 where there was a 0% tax rate increase, and highest was in 2022 of 9.94% tax rate increase. On average, the budgeted increase over that period is 3.04%. And I'd like to turn this presentation over to Mr. Blanchett.
Thanks, Alvin. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This step, so we're going to talk a little bit about our engagement process with the community over the next few slides. And so this step ensures our community's voice is reflected in how we prioritize investments and balance fiscal responsibility and service expectations. Cochrane's budget is built with community insight, ensuring residents understand how decisions are made and have the opportunities to also share their perspectives with us. Public session opportunities allow for input. They focus on helping residents understand where dollars go and how priorities are set. The feedback we receive informs both short-term adjustments and long-term financial planning. It reinforces transparency, accountability, and two-way communications. Before building the budget, we asked residents to share what mattered most to them. The Town of Cochrane contracted with Advantis to conduct the 2026 Town of Cochrane Budget Planning Survey, so we've been working with Advantis for a couple of years now. In total, 825 randomly selected residents completed the survey between April 2nd and May 7th of this year. All but one respondent was 18 years or older. At Cochrane's population, 825 respondents gives us a very strong margin of error of about plus or minus 3.5%. This is the same statistical standard used in national public opinion polling. What this means is that if we surveyed different groups of 825 people repeatedly, the results would fall very close to these numbers almost every time. This is directionally solid, reliable insight into resident preferences as we navigate the 2026 budget. So you've already seen this image in the past. So essentially, 30% indicated they would be looking for increased taxes and increased services. 16% increased taxes while maintaining services. 24% cut services while maintaining taxes. 17% cut services and also cut taxes. And then 14% were neutral or did not provide a response. So the key insights are 46% of, nearly half of respondents, 46% are open to some level of tax increase if it protects or enhances services. At the same time, about a quarter prefer to hold taxes steady, knowing that this would require service reductions. This pattern is common in municipalities. People value services, but different groups prioritize affordability and service levels differently. These results offer a reliable sense of the community's direction. The exact percentages matter less than the overall shape of the residents' preferences. So just before we move, before I hand it over to Kelly, Ms. Dunsmore for the FTE update and our compensation piece, I was just going to pause and see if there was any questions. All right, seeing none, we'll carry on.
Yeah, and we do have breaks throughout where there'll be other points for questions following Ms. Dunsmore's presentation, the other presentations. So again, happy to take your questions as they come up.
Looks like Councillor Fidego has one.
Is it possible?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Is it possible to get the survey results that were done previously from the engagement put on the portal for council to just review? I know that was a while ago, but it'd be good to maybe refresh our memory.
Absolutely, not a problem.
I don't know if they're in the, or are they in the package?
So you have the actual, in the budget book, you have the entire Advantis report.
Okay,
Yeah, so it's there in hard copy.
And-
If you
and-
wanted it digitally, we could load it digitally.
yeah, if you can do it digitally, that would be great too.
Sure, no problem.
Carry on.
Okay, next we're going to move into staffing and compensation. This budget maintains our commitment to fair, competitive compensation. It also supports safe workplaces, training, and the ability to attract and keep staff in a competitive labor market. So I'll turn it over to Kelly now to walk you through the details.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'd like to begin by providing an overview of our full-time equivalent positions, highlighting where we're seeing needs and how we're prioritizing staffing requests for 2026. Following that, I'll provide a high-level overview of our compensation philosophy and the planned transition to a market-based model, both of which reflect our commitment to fiscal responsibility and sustainable growth. As part of this year's budget process, we've taken a very intentional look at our staffing levels and ensure they align with Cochrane's growth and the expectations we continue to hear from residents. As you can see on the screen and on page 20 of your budget books, our 2025 FTE count is 273.6, and for 2026, we are requesting an additional 14.6 FTE, which could bring our total to 288.2 if approved. That number comes after a thorough and disciplined review. Departments brought forward a range of 35 different staffing requests, and the executive leadership team carefully narrowed those down to the most essential positions, those that maintain service levels, strengthen safety, and improve operational efficiency. And of note, there are no formal leadership positions proposed in the 2026 staffing budget. During the spring budget engagement sessions, residents were clear about what matters: reliable services, fiscal responsibility, and ensuring that the town has the capacity to deliver on those expectations. This staffing proposal reflects those priorities. It's not about adding layers, it's about strategic investments that create value for our community. The shaded positions on the screen recommended for approval are intentionally selected because they help offset or reduce their own costs over time, either through revenue generation, reduced reliance on external services, or improved service efficiency. Examples include a grants and funding analyst who will secure external funding and reduce dependence on the tax base, additional peace officers who will bolster community safety, lessen pressures on RCMP contract costs, and increase opportunities for revenue generation. Firefighters will enhance response capacity as our communities continue to grow. And just to note there, we're planning to hire 4 firefighters next year. However, we are only requesting 1.4 FTE. The remaining staffing capacity will be funded through a reduction in the casual firefighter budget. A second fleet mechanic will bring maintenance work back in-house, decreasing external service costs and lowering vehicle downtime. These are not just staffing increases, they are investments in efficiency, sustainability, and service continuity, grounded in fiscal responsibility. That same principle carries through to the next part of our budget conversation, the transition to the market-based compensation model. Before I move on to that compensation conversation, I'm happy to pause for any questions here on FTEs and positions.
Councilor McFadden?
It's kind of a moment to kind of dig into what these roles are going to do, or later in the budget. What's best?
Sure, let's see
Knock
where we
myself
go.
out of the park? Okay,
Yeah.
I'll just have fun then. So grants and funding analyst, help me with the argument for that beyond what you just said. Is this to help us navigate the space between the federal and provincial?
Yeah, just to secure more grants for the town of Cochrane, and hopefully decrease some of that tax funding, and perhaps.
Yeah,
Mr.
I'm
Blanchard can support.
absolutely happy to answer that question. We want to explore different opportunities, the various grants and opportunities within, whether it's federal or provincial funding, having access to them. Right now, we do a lot of this work off the corner of our desk, and having a dedicated person who can focus on that, I think, will yield better results for us.
Okay, and I think my next question on this one, I can understand communications, of course, health and safety, finance clerk, those ones make sense to me. The firefighters, I think I need to understand a little bit better. How do we take a capital reduction? Is that what I heard?
Yes.
So we're actually getting 4 firefighters, because if I understand firefighter math, 4 is 1.
So we're requesting 4 firefighters. So the firefighter casual pool was 524,000, and in 2026, we're reducing that to 191,000 for the casual firefighter pool costs.
Oh, the casual, I misheard.
Yeah,
So we're going
it's
to,
funding the additional FTE. Yeah.
okay, so it'll be 4. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, as I understand it, the RCMP, we're advocating for 2 new positions. We're not filling, we don't have any new RCMP officers in the budget. We're filling the need through peace officers.
Correct.
Okay. Oh, and then the one I didn't, the admin assistant in social development. I was unclear about that one.
I'm gonna have to pass that over to my colleagues.
So through the chair to you, Councillor McFadden, this is a group led by Mr. Knox that is developing. So there is quite a need for some admin assistance. I can speak from my own experience, having somebody recently helping me and has been instrumental in allowing me to focus on strategic items. And certainly that's something with the portfolio that Mr. Knox is working on that we would like him focused on, and some of the admin duties, having someone there to support him as well.
All right, yeah, big picture, my first take on the staffing request when I was reviewing it initially and tonight here still is I really appreciate these are looking a lot like the boots on the ground level of service I think we desperately need. So that's my first take on it. Thank you for the clarification of my questions.
Yeah, and following up on Councilor McFadden's question, is there, where else throughout this budget deliberation process are we gonna be touching on our FTE's plan? Is this it, or this is the only time to have this conversation? Seeing a nodding head, but can I just get a verbal confirmation for the public?
Yeah,
record,
the
those
intent
watching?
was to focus on the staffing request this evening.
Good.
Mayor Nagel.
Okay, so one of the things that I heard during the election, from a variety of different neighborhoods when I was out knocking on doors, meeting with people, is that there seems to be a sense that the town is falling behind on our parks maintenance, whether it's cutting grass, keeping weeds out of planters, that type of thing. Is that the caretaker position that we have at 0.4 FTEs? Is that where that would fall? If there were not, was an opportunity to expand it?
Mayor Nagel, just for clarity, the caretaker position is not parks, that is with our buildings.
Okay, and then is there anything here that would pertain to parks maintenance and servicing?
The summer students,
Summer students?
yes.
Okay, I would be interested in having a discussion about options to increase that. And more importantly, perhaps, I'd be interested to hear if council heard similar things about engagement with the community over the past few months. So, Councillor Federico?
Thanks. I don't necessarily have a comment on the parks right now, but I'm just trying to understand the admin assistant communications. Is that somebody to handle some weekend? I know council had talked about having somebody to respond on weekends. Is that with that person in that?
No,
Kelly,
not,
Kelly, I'll grab that one for you. So we actually already have an on-call, we have communications advisors that are currently on, or sorry, through the mayor to Councillor Federico. We do have members of our communications advisory team that are on call either in the evenings, on weekends, and through stat holidays. So that's already in place. What we wanted to do was be really efficient around looking at positions. So rather than adding or asking for another communications advisor, we've had an admin assistant in working with us covering a maternity leave and have found that really, really effective. And we thought that was a more appropriate use of that resource and a better use of our budget dollars to keep that person in place. So that's that recommendation, and that's been a great add to our team. So rather than asking for another comms advisor, we feel that this communications assistant person, individual, really assist us in that process and that work. That's the background. But we currently do have people covering on call currently as well.
Okay. I don't have any more questions for right now.
Councillor Singh?
So through the chair, I have a few questions. So what are the peace officer roles? Are there boot on grounds or admin jobs?
I'm sorry, pardon me?
The peace officers?
Yep,
Would they be boots on the ground or would they be admin office
they're
jobs?
boots on the ground.
And for the next one is for the corporate services, financial services. Are we using a ERP software, or we're trying to,
I'm not sure. I think that's for Alvin.
The chair, through Councilor Singh, do you mind repeating your question?
so are we using a ERP software, like a standardized software, or do we need more people, or are we adding more bodies to do the repetitive work?
This new general clerk is an added addition due to growth, and the amount of financial transactions have increased over the years. This is to add resource for that, as well as redundancy in the finance department, because when clerks are away or on vacation, there's no one to cover or backfill for them. So this individual would be doing that. With respect to the ERP is a capital project, and that is something that we will be talking about during the capital presentation.
Sure. The other question is so one thing I've heard in the door knocking and through the chair, like we have 35 managers. The number is so high. The ratio of the managers to supervisor who report to manager should be around, is there a number to it, attached to it, or is it one manager, one staff? Or is it one manager and one supervisor and 6 people underneath? So is there a ratio, and how does it look like with the other different municipalities?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Singh, we don't have a specific ratio at the town, nor do I have information on what other municipalities do for their staffing.
Okay. And for the admin assistant in the recycling role, are we getting an advisor, or is it a person who's gonna be working in the eco center?
Through the chair to Councillor Singh, this is a position that we are filling currently with a temporary person. And so they're not in the recycling center. They're actually right now based out of the station. And correct me if I'm wrong, my colleagues there?
Yeah.
Correct? Yeah.
Maybe I'll take that one, Kelly. Through the chair to Councillor Singh. So there's 2 waste and recycling positions that we're speaking about in there. So we have the admin assistant waste and recycling at 0.2 FTE. That's rounding out a current part-time employee. Our waste and recycling department in Cochrane is managed by 1 manager and that 0.8 FTE admin assistant. So that does all of the waste and recycling, the contract work, all the phone calls that come in. That goes to those two people currently. So what we're finding is, from the admin perspective, we need to round out that part 0.8 FTE to 1 FTE. Now, when it comes to the waste and recycling advisor, that's a new role that we've identified, and this was largely based off of the need to get back into the schools to start doing the outreach programs that we needed to step away from because of just simple volume for the 1.8 manager FTE, as well as our EPR program. So in 2025, the Extended Producer Responsibility Program came active in Cochrane. And that has some pretty heavy reporting and tracking pieces associated with it. So the waste and recycling advisor is there to help with that as well.
Thank you. And the other question is, can the roles be, like there are community liaison roles and there are equity inclusion roles, can those roles be a little bit more like used on a different scale, or they are particularly mandated by province that it has to be like this?
Through the chair to Councillor Singh, does somebody have a response to that question? The diversity inclusion roles, Matt?
Thanks. So in particular, the diversity, equity, inclusion, community liaison role transitioned to my portfolio in August. And we've been doing a bit of a review around the role in particular. And it is something that I'm actually looking to come back to council and get some input and discussion around how that role could advance various things like our if the town was to develop a more robust Indigenous engagement strategy in the town, what would that look like, or things like that. In particular, the role was actually put forward by council in, I can't remember if it was 21 or 22, was created, directed by council to be more connected with the various communities, equity deserving groups, and providing that outreach and connection. Is there something in particular that you're interested about that?
No, I've just meant like, that role it's great role, like, you need to have that. But I'm just saying, can it be used? Is that the only role for community liaison, or there are other different roles? Like that's what I'm trying to understand. Like if there's just one role, or there's somebody in the parks as well, liaison,
Yes,
or there's somebody else in the
understand, yes.
liaison, not just one particular role.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So through the chair to councillor Singh, as far as I'm aware, there is a community liaison role in Parks and Rec. So there are various roles like that, but the DI one is falling inside of my portfolio, so looking more on that social development side. But there could be other roles in other areas. I don't think we have another community liaison in another section. No, just mine and the Parks and Rec.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Over to Councillor Fedeko.
Before we move forward, I just wanted to share with Councillor Singh that as we get into the other presentations of each of the directors, there will be a brief explanation of the teams, and you'll have a better understanding of the ratio in there. So,
Councillor Fedeko.
Yes, going back to the assistant for social development. So right now we have director, Mr. Knox, and then we have nobody else in that department but Mr. Knox right now, and then we're looking to add one admin assistant. Is that what I'm understanding from my paper?
no, there are other people within that group as well.
Okay, yeah, because it just on this chart here, it just says director of social development, it says one, and then it has one, meaning, and then it has two. So I was just curious if that's just the branches.
Well,
Right, through the chair to Councillor Fedeko. So at the moment inside of social development, it's myself. And then in this budget cycle, we'll also have the community liaison role and the admin assistant for social development. But the admin assistant in particular, and this is something that is very important, the role is actually proposed to provide high-level support across all of the 5 sections. So it isn't just for me and the work that I'm doing, it's very much so supporting, if you remember the overall of my chart, we have 5 areas, but 4 very distinctly different. And part of that too, really wanting to mitigate the amount of, administrative support that we're lacking in places like transit, in particular, is one that we're needing more of that support. So that role would provide support to my entire team.
Thank you. I think it's really important that it is mentioned that it's covering a lot of different bases, because when you look at the chart and to the general public, it just looks like one EA is providing to one person. So maybe just something to keep in mind for future budgets, just to make sure that there is clear understanding that one position's like covering 5 different areas for help. I think it's important for the public to know that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Through the chair to Councillor Fedeko, so it's about 21 positions total, that not exclusively, but that admin support would be supporting that entire section. And more specifically, 3 positions that are standalone positions. Yep.
Councillor Gill.
Just backtracking a bit, I consistently heard from residents about slower turnaround on parks maintenance. So I too would really like to see more boots on the ground and perhaps another position there to respond to that feedback and ensure that our parks are maintained to the expectation. So just a comment from me.
Thank you.
Councillor McDonald.
I was just curious, and I realize it might not be apples to apples, and it won't be, but in terms of the fulsome look at our organization, how do we sit at 288 FTE for 2026? How does that compare to like similar sized municipalities? Are we lean? Are we happily average? Are we generous? Just curious.
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor McDonald, I think that's a hard number to come up with just because of the way that different municipalities are staffed. I know Councillor Federico has noted that in the past as well. I did try to create a comparison document of that, but without digging deeply into how they staff their different facilities as well as how they run their facilities. It was really hard to get a specific number.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Councillor McFadden?
I can actually speak to that one briefly because I know where you're coming from. And so, like, say you were just like, hey, we want to know what Okotoks is doing. It's a nice comparable, right? But our entire recreation is pretty much under SLS, where all their recreation is under their municipality. So just even add, though, at 50, 60 other personnel would disrupt the numbers. And then we ship our sewer to Calgary, but we treat our own water. But Airdrie's, both their sewer and their water comes from Calgary, so they don't have staff for that. So to find a nice apples to apples comparison, it gets pretty impossible pretty quick. Like you're like, why is our garbage so much? But we have to truck it to Calgary, whereas Canmore has their own, they could just truck it up the hill or whatever they do. So it's always tempting. I know where you're coming from, but every municipality is running its own unique circumstances. So just put that lens on it. To the piece around the maintenance of our parks and such, and maybe I was distracted here, that's the summer student, the 0.6 FT is a full-time summer student, or is it 2 full-time summer students?
I believe it's 2.
Right, so you could double your summer students and get 4 for the summer. They're cheaper.
Councillor McFadden, if I can, I just wanted to comment on Councillor McDonald's question and that you had clarified as well. I think it would be fair to say that the growth of our community and the growth of our staff complement have not been following a similar trajectory. So to look at this again, and we did make a significant increase a few years ago. However, it certainly hasn't kept pace.
I would have a follow-up question on the parks maintenance. Is it just a matter of adding on more summer students? Because if you're looking at things like cutting grass, presumably those people would need equipment. And if we're adding additional bodies, but not enough equipment, such as lawnmowers or weed whackers, whatever they're using, how would that work in the budget? Do we have more equipment than we do bodies currently, or not enough equipment and too many bodies? Like what's the situation there?
I'll take that one, Kelly. That's a great question, Mayor. With regard to the summer students, we could feasibly add some more summer students to it. They're not traditionally heavy equipment operators for us, so perhaps some more line trimmers and those type of tools. I would say less equipment, more tools. Of interest, underneath the service contracts, and we'll get into this on Thursday, it'll be on page 148, you'll note that there's been an increase in the parks and open spaces under the service contracts for about $53,000, and that's by design this year. Now, we had an abnormally wet spring and summer this year, and it really drove the grass. We were cutting grass into season when we typically don't, when our parks have gone dormant. So we acknowledge that we did get behind. I got behind a little personally at home myself. What we did identify this year with regard to the service contract is that it would be more beneficial for us to bring in a contracted group to cut the medians. Those are really intensive for our students. To go out there with the traffic control. It takes so long, if you've ever driven past our teams when they're out there with all the traffic control going on, just to mow one median. So we're proposing this year to contract out some of those slower activities, perhaps some of those higher risk activities for our seasonal students often, and focus on the larger mowing of the parks, the open spaces, the green fields, and put those activities there. So I would always I welcome the conversation around more summer students. We absolutely could use them, and we have the tools to support them, to answer your question specifically.
So would we have the option of considering additional contract capacity sometime in April, May, or June, when it's a bit more evident what the season's going to be looking like? Because it does feel a little anecdotal, but your comments about the precipitation are very serious. Like, we did have a record-breaking amount of precipitation, and I do know my own house, I didn't water the grass at all this year, and it was cutting a lot. But in past years, I was fighting to keep my grass alive, watering it very regularly. So it's a very real thing. Is there an option to come back to that conversation in the spring when we know what the weather's gonna look like?
What I would recommend we do is approve the budget, the line item for the contracted resources, but not commit to it until we know what the season is. And if that was the case, because this is in our operational dollar or operational budget, that would just come back in the form of our reserves at the end of the year. So it'd be a surplus, sorry.
Mr. Hammond?
The only other thing I was going to say, Mr. Mayor, is as council is considering these items, certainly parks maintenance, we can put that in the parking lot. We can go away, get some different options, present those options to council for consideration as well. So that's part of this process, and just wanted to share that with council. So whether it's seasonals, whatever it may be, we just need your direction. And the clearer the direction from council of what you want to see, the options, better options we can present to you.
And if I could just continue on that vein, our line of thinking, in past years, we started using this term, parking lot. When we'd come to an item, we want to come back to at the end of the long meeting or long session, we'd parking lot it. So that's what that word means for the new folks and anybody watching in the public audience. So in terms of our parking lot process, is someone from staff keeping track of parking lot items, or do you want me to do that? You've got it?
Yeah, we're on top of it.
Okay, so we're parking lotting options for additional parks maintenance. Over to Councillor Singh.
Just a comment I'm gonna ask questions. So is it possible to bring on the students, like high school students, onto that contracted services? Let's say if contract is given to person A, conditions could be put if you hire young students or from Bow Valley School or Cochrane High or something, so that at least, because the youth unemployment right now, it's like over 17% across Canada. And I'm sure like Councillor Gale has also like very, like, you know, towards the youth, like, you know, so if we can find those job opportunity for youth would be for Parks and Rec side I'm talking about, like, you know, something could be done.
Through the chair to Councillor Singh, yes, absolutely. Many of the students that we bring on every year are from our local high schools, and they turn into recurring students and seasonals for us, sometimes full-time as well. So I welcome that, and we'll provide you, that'll be one of the options we bring forward to council.
Okay, Councillor Federico?
Just a clarifying point, I know you did mention it. The 4 firefighters, so that's $524,000, and then it's like a savings of 100 and some. I'm just trying to understand the breakdown of, so if you compare 4 full-time firefighters to 4 casual, what does that number difference look like?
Okay. Through the chair to Councillor Federico, I don't have the breakdown specifically of that. I just have like the full pool amount, so the 524,000, the casual pool, and then what it'll be in 2026. Did you have that, Jay?
Through the chair to Councillor Federico, I have a breakdown here that I've done earlier, and the amount that you had, if you could repeat that for me?
524,000?
If I might, while Jay is looking for his numbers, I believe the 525 was the casual number, and so part of that 525 is helping to fund the firefighters, so that we're only asking for 1.4 FTE because the balance of those funds are coming from the casual pool dollars.
Gotcha, so that's where that $191,000 is extra. Okay, perfect, thank you for the clarification.
Councillor McFadden?
We never made it get beyond the first page. But I did have a couple more questions to follow up with, and maybe for the parking lot. I am open to the grants and funding analyst position, I can hear that, but could we look at just putting that as a term position and see how it plays out before funding it full-time?
So are you asking whether we could consider it as a contract position rather than a full-time position?
Yeah,
Yeah, we can look at that.
okay, just brainstorming ideas here. And then on the firefighters, so coming back to that one again. So 1.4 equals 4, but that's because we're combining the casual into full-time positions. Is that going to have an impact on our projected overtime costs? Is it going to cost us more?
Jay, are you able to answer that one?
It will actually not have an impact on increasing, through the chair to Councillor
It's all good.
McFadden. It will not have a impact on increasing our overtime budget.
Okay. And then we were having the conversation around the parks maintenance piece. Would that be something like, I think we're all eager to make sure our parks look good. But would that be something we would consider, or have we built into any of our future work plans to create service level standards for the different parks as a policy instead of, as much as I love adding positions, it'd probably be strategically based?
Through the chair to Councillor McFadden, yes. Definition of service level standards is in the book as our priorities for both the parks and open spaces this year, as well as our roads department. I'd like to be able to identify clearly to the community elements like how often we get out and we mow those boulevards, or our turf maintenance. You know, how often do we do that? So, and quantify that to the public. So when we bring on a new piece of infrastructure, we'll be able to quantify the effect of that. You know, we're only getting to it, say, once every month, whereas the service level could be once every 2 weeks, and we can evaluate future service asks, or sorry, future staffing asks based off of the service level successes.
Sure, it impacts, right? So that's as a development is turning over parks to the municipality. Before they were paying for it. But now, if we want to maintain it to that level, we're probably going to have to add like a 0.25 or something for all of Heritage Hills as it comes on, something like that?
Exactly that, Councillor.
Okay. Okay, I think that catches me up for questions, but I'm expecting we'll circle back to this, the staffing piece that always gets to be quite interesting.
Yeah, and there's always the opportunity to do that as we go through. We can circle back at a later date.
Perfect.
And we've already got one item in the parking lot, so.
Perfect, thank you very much.
Councillor Singh?
Just a role clarity on the development inspector, please, and civil land technologist.
Sure. Through the chair to Councillor Singh, I'm going to pass that over to.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. So the development inspector, we've had a number of concerns with development in our community. So we currently have somebody in civil who is, or in our civil land department who is out doing inspections, but we also want to have somebody from the planning perspective. So whether there's different applications, having somebody, we want our senior planners as well as Planner 2s focused on their applications. They do site visits, but having an inspector dedicated to doing that will allow people to focus, also builds an opportunity in our, to build capacity within our organization. And then civil land is one of the busiest areas. Mr. Sulo and his team are really responding to all the development within our community. That team has been the same size for probably the last 6 years. So adding another civil land technologist and just the volume of work that they're experiencing. So they really work on the development reviews will be a critical component to helping relieve some of the pressure in that area.
Were you satisfied with that answer?
So the development inspector will be issuing fines as well if the development, whoever is not following the rule.
Sorry, I'll let you finish, Councillor Singh, sorry.
So let's say if a builder is not following the rules, leaving the garbage on the road, or neighbors are complaining or anything, they would be able to put a fine ticket, or it would be more on the bylaw side?
It is going to be more out of the planning side. So they will be looking at different sites, whether it's home-based business as well as secondary suites, things of that nature. Certainly any of the other items that you referred to would be the community peace officers. So again, there's a very distinct process. We also have our inspector in civil land who is going and seeing the hard infrastructure that is being built and making sure that that's built to our standards as well. So that's a position that a number of years ago council approved, but this would be more on the planning, reporting to Mr. Auclair in his area.
Recognizing we've already had significant conversation, I just want to talk a little bit further about the process, only because staffing is the largest component of our operating budget, and we've just kind of dove straight first into the deep end of our operating budget here. It's an interesting place to be on the heels of an election, a month into the term, just after AB Munis, to have this conversation so quickly, because in a lot of ways it feels like this group up here is inheriting the government of the last group that sat around this table. And so one of the things that I had discussed a couple of times, but in a serious capacity during the municipal election, was this concept of taking a pause and really considering the structure of the entire organization before adding on a bunch of new FTEs. So I have two questions, one for administration and one to council after that one. And the first question is just if our administration could comment a little bit to explain the process that has been gone through to get to these recommendations. And then the secondary question I was going to be asking council's comfort level of just moving forwards with this as our process with the organization, if there was a need, a feeling of a need for a broader conversation about how we're doing things with this FTE conversation. So over to staff, could you guys tell us a bit about how we got here with this list of FTE requests?
Sure, through the chair to Mayor Nagel. It started out with a request from all the directors and managers to submit position requests to ELT. So it was a digital form that we filled out based on the needs of our areas. So in that form, we talked about what we need, why we need it, and how that will impact services to the community and any other strategic priorities that we have. From there, all those requests went over to ELT, and ELT discussed those positions and looked at essential services that we need. They looked at improving safety and efficiency, and just making sure that they were fiscally responsible. So that's why you see a lot of these highlighted positions that have those offsets, especially when we do have a new council this year. And then I think anything further would have to go over to Drew, as I was not a part of those conversations to go from the 35 requests down to where we are today.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Dunsmore. That's a good summary. Certainly, through that process, there was a robust discussion. Again, we're looking at building out the entire organization and making sure we have the resources we need. Again, we have to look at this in the context of the entire budget. And Mr. Mayor, you pointed out something that's really important. Staff is one of the most significant costs. So while I would have loved to have said we need 25 positions, I also did not want to come before council and look at a much more significant tax increase. So we did our due diligence. We went back, worked with our teams, and felt that this was something that we could support and defend in front of council. So we've done a lot of work to get to this point, but that also includes the removal of 21 positions that I'm sure and confident that my colleagues within the organization would love to see and would help meet some of the objectives that we're trying to achieve in the community.
And if I could ask a follow-up question before turning it over to council for further dialogue, to acting Drew Hyman, acting CAO Drew Hyman, have you had sufficient time to really put your stamp of approval on this plan? And I'm asking that question with the assumption that you probably haven't, because it's only been a few weeks that you've had to really digest all this. And previously, you were in the role of executive director, and now you're the one showing us this whole budget and pitching. Are you confident with what's here, or do you need more time before you can be confident?
Mr. Mayor, I am confident in this process. I'm trying to reflect. I think I'm the only one currently who was in that room when we had this discussion. Certainly, I believe this meets the interests of both our community and our organization. So I am confident in saying that we should move forward with this. Certainly welcome to get some feedback from council, whether it's something like parks It's the number one thing we hear of when we do our community engagement. So if that's something that council wishes to include as well. However, I'm very confident in these and was part of that process. And so, yes, I'm happy with these.
And so you were part of the high-level conversations informing
Absolutely.
all this, not just the development infrastructure services component?
No, I was part of the entire discussion and participated in that, and even with my colleagues, believe this was in the best interests of the organization and the community.
Okay. Okay, over to Councillor Federico for further comment.
What the mayor said is something that I think was very clear out in the community, is that we are very management heavy. That's what the community at large sees. I am happy, just like Councillor McFadden said, this is really a boots on the ground filling positions, which I'm happy to see. But I do agree that we are in a unique spot right now with an acting CAO. Also, maybe some challenges in upper leadership and filling up positions and people moving around a little bit. And I don't know, honestly, what that looks like over the next kind of coming months. And so I am cognizant of, not approving too much, and then we realize, well, you know what, then we also need to hire additional resources or contract services. So I see both sides of this. I don't know how you'd wait to not hire some of these people. I mean, especially in the world of planning, I think it's really important that we have some additional resources there. I know for fire, kind of leaving those casuals behind is probably a good thing. So there's more stability, more train. They have, they more stability with training and everything like that. Yeah, but I do understand the point of what you're trying to say. I mean, if anything, I would not like to see anybody moving into management positions or director positions without that absolutely coming back to council, because I do believe that people out there, they're okay with getting the work done. What they're not necessarily okay with is another huge increase of management and above. So that's just what I've heard out in the campaign trail.
Yeah, if I can comment through the chair to Councillor Federico and to the rest of the council, I think one of the important things that we did over the last number of years was try to build the organization. Yes, there were a number of management positions, but it goes back to Councillor Singh's initial question about span of control and how many people are working within those areas. I can tell you when I first started at the organization, I had a significant number of people in my groups, and certainly having Mr. Hubble, Mr. Tooth, Mr. Sulo, Mr. Krasinski, filling out that team. I think we're in the strongest position that we've been in. And then when you look at this, we were very deliberate and intentional in terms of making sure that these were boots on the ground, probably the positions that are closest to our community. Again, we took time to build out the organization. Now we're filling in the other spaces to make sure that we can deliver on that. And that's kind of what I reflected in the initial presentation that I made. So.
Councillor McFadden?
So I understand where these thoughts are coming from. We've got 3 new councillors, and it is very much like getting thrown in the deep end. And of course, the budget, the whole process, you're catching it at the last minute. So I know from experience how overwhelming that can be, and I also know your commitment to making smart financial decisions. And so I don't want in any way to rush either our new councillors or more experienced councillors into this. That's why I've highlighted that we don't necessarily need to pass this budget. We have to pass an interim budget by the end of the year, but I'm just saying, I'm not encouraging us to do that, but it is a tool on the table if council is not familiar with, by the end of the time we go through this process, that we could pass an interim budget and give ourselves a couple of months, I think you have till March to do it, to pass a budget that is comfortable with what you campaigned on, what your priorities, your understanding, your values. So I just wanted to put that out there. We could even pass the capital budget, which is usually a little bit simpler, and come back to the operational budget a little bit later. What I would ask of my colleagues, though, is let's give the process a chance. See how much we can learn. We have, as you can see already from the responses we're getting back tonight from the staff, these are well thought out arguments for why these positions are being championed and the budget is being championed. So I would just ask that everybody, give it a chance. If at the end of the 3 or 4 days, we don't land at a comfort place, we do have options. When it comes to the staffing requests, I'm certainly comfortable with the approach of boots on the ground. If it was a manager level, director level, I would be more concerned. As I mentioned, we are in a time of kind of great change, both at the council bench and throughout the leadership bench. And I do want to make sure that we have space to adapt and arrange that however it best suits the organization moving ahead. Hopefully that wasn't too convoluted to let's keep our options open in this budget. So those are just my thoughts. Like I said, I like the boots on the ground approach for sure. And if the group can just work through the process, and then we can be open from there.
Yeah, and where I am at is I wanted to make sure that our acting CEO had space to say I needed a few more weeks or even a couple more months to really put my stamp of approval on this. But hearing that the stamp of approval is there, and that, please feel free to comment after I'm done here. But I'm hearing that even if we waited a few weeks or a few months, this is the list we'd still get. And if that's the case, then let's move forward.
Well, I want to share two things. First of all, yes, this is the list that we would bring forward. Certainly we'll take any suggestions that you have and work to provide you different options. But I also like to highlight, while there were some comments about the ELT group and some instability in there, I'd like to focus on this group and the group here supporting me. We've got tremendous people in this organization, and they're stepping into spaces and making a tremendous difference. So I would like to you to focus on that and have a tremendous amount of confidence in them as well. We're in a good position because of the decisions that you have supported in the past and the people that we have in the room.
Okay, that's excellent to hear. And I hope that you know that if you need anything else, just let us know during these sessions.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we can carry on unless there's any other conversation from council. Thanks, everyone, for your patience.
Thank you.
Would council like a break?
Would council like a break? Council would like a break. Council would like a break.
Thank you.
so mean.
Wasn't me. All right, let's carry on. Thank you.
Just like the staffing asked, the new proposed compensation model is designed to be balanced, data-driven, and financially responsible, ensuring we can attract and retain quality employees while maintaining affordability for our residents. Earlier this year, the town conducted a comprehensive market compensation survey using 10 comparable municipalities that you see on the screen. A market survey compares positions across similar organizations using role descriptors to ensure that like roles are measured against like. This approach provides consistency and objectivity in evaluating how our compensation aligns with the broader municipal market. Looking ahead to 2026, we're planning to transition from our current step-based compensation model to a market-based model for our non-unionized employees, targeting the 60th percentile of the market. This target, which was previously identified and supported by council, serves as a benchmark of our compensation philosophy, balancing competitiveness with responsible stewardship of public funds. Unless council provides a new direction, this will continue to guide our approach moving forward. Thank you for whoever turned the microphone on. We use the equivalent dollar value of a 2% increase on the staffing budget from 2025 to fund a redesign of our compensation model. As a result, the 2026 budget does not include a cost of living adjustment, or COLA, for non-unionized employees. Instead, we're taking a phased and balanced approach, prioritizing increases for employees whose compensation is furthest below market and scaling back increases for those already closer to market alignment. This approach will not bring every position fully to market in the first year. However, it represents an important first step. Over the next 2 or so budget cycles, we will continue refining the framework to bring all positions into market alignment. We know that reallocating COLA alone will not resolve the entire gap, but it establishes a necessary structure and addresses some of the acute needs. Looking ahead, we will continue assessing compensation against market benchmarks with the long-term goal of establishing a consistent annual market review cycle for all positions. In closing, this budget represents a thoughtful balance between meeting community expectations and maintaining fiscal discipline. It positions the town of Cochrane to continue delivering exceptional service, attract and retain talent, and remain a place where people are proud to live, work, and serve. Questions?
I suppose I do have a question. This 60th percentile of the market, does it live in a policy that has been passed somewhere? Or is it just a rule of thumb that we're sticking to? And this would be like as formal as it gets.
Through the chair to Mayor Nagel, I believe it actually was approved by council a few years ago. Does anyone know the exact date of that?
We would have to get that information for you, Mayor and Council, again. But I believe Ms. Dunsmore is correct. It was a policy approved by council, or a figure approved by council.
Okay. Nice. I don't see any other questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Tonight, I'm pleased to introduce 2 directors from our Development and Infrastructure Services team. Sean Tooth, Director of Utilities, who will provide a high-level overview of the proposed 2026 utility budget and fees. Following that, Adam Sulo, Director of Engineering Services, will walk Council through the capital planning process and philosophy. We're highlighting these 2 areas this evening because utilities and capital projects represent some of the largest, most complex, and most impactful components of our overall budget. Bringing them forward ahead of the detailed presentations on the 20th will ensure Council has adequate time to reflect, ask strategic questions, and consider long-term implications before entering the full budget deliberations on Thursday. For Cochrane's utility and rate-funded departments, being water, wastewater, stormwater, and waste and recycling, Sean will outline how rising external costs, including increased treatment charges from Calgary, inflationary pressures, and the ongoing need to reinvest in aging infrastructure, are shaping the 2026 proposal. Our approach focuses on cost recovery, long-term sustainability, and future-proofing our systems to ensure reliability, competitive rates, and financial stability. The 2026 capital plan continues to prioritize core infrastructure while also enhancing key community amenities. It includes proposed investments in both new and renewed water and wastewater infrastructure, upgrades to our transit and technology assets, and important renewals and additions to parks, pathways, and open spaces, areas consistently identified by our community as their top priorities. This evening, Adam will outline the guiding philosophies and processes that shape the capital projects list, which Council will then review in detail on Thursday. With that, I'll invite Sean to begin with an overview of the the utilities budget, followed by Adam's presentation of the 2026 capital projects plan.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for having me. Tonight, we're walking through the draft 2026 budget for utility services: water, wastewater, stormwater, solid waste, and the Eco Center. These teams manage the systems people rely on every single day, often without a second thought. The theme that connects all of these budgets is simple: maintaining reliability through smart asset management and long-term life cycle planning. In 2025, we created the utilities section to bring all 5 utility departments under one umbrella. This wasn't about adding cost, it was about coordinating smarter. By consolidating planning, budgeting, and operations, we're reducing duplication and strengthening the asset management practices that keep our infrastructure reliable for the long term. Skip over that one. Our water system is one of Cochrane's most dependable services. It must perform flawlessly, every day without fail. The investments we make here protect public health, support growth, and ensure the system can continue delivering safe, clean water well into the future. Here's what's driving the 2026 water utility rate change of $2.80 per month. On the savings side, customer growth offsets $1.77 per month, and reserves reduce costs by another $1.02 by covering one-time initiatives, including but not limited to CMMS development, linear asset renewal analysis, and water and wastewater master plan finalization. On the pressure side, the main increases come from capital replacement funding at $2.48 a month, payment in lieu of taxes at $1.32 a month, building repair and maintenance at 73 cents a month, and inflationary pressures at 70 cents per month, or 77 cents per month. As we continue this work, our utility rate review will help refine the level of capital replacement funding we contribute to reserves. The review includes a revenue requirements analysis built from our prioritized asset renewal work, ensuring we're collecting the right amount to sustainably replace water infrastructure over its life cycle. It also includes a cost-to-service analysis to guide fair changes for other jurisdictions, and a rate design review to ensure our rates remain competitive, easy to administer, and aligned with customer needs. Together, this work will fine-tune our capital replacement funding and strengthen the long-term sustainability of water, wastewater, and stormwater systems. When we compare our water rates to other communities in the Calgary region, Cochrane remains well within a competitive range. The key point here is that our rate effectively balances affordability with the level of investment needed to maintain reliable service. It shows we're aligned with the market while still funding the essentials that keep water safe and dependable. Now let's move on to wastewater, the system you only think about when something goes wrong. Behind the scenes, it's moving more than 3 Olympic-sized swimming pools of wastewater every day from homes and businesses into the regional system. It may not be visible, but it's essential for public health and everyday life. Cost drivers include Calgary wastewater treatment charges increasing by 6%, a $264,000 impact. Capital contributions have an impact of $4.50 per month, our biggest component. And building repairs and maintenance, inflation, and consultants tied to regulatory and engineering requirements combine for a monthly impact of $2.05. Again, this reflects responsible asset management. We fund life cycle replacement, maintain our facilities, and reduce long-term costs by planning ahead. For wastewater, this comparison shows that Cochrane sits comfortably.
Sorry, we have a question, sorry
Yeah,
to interrupt.
sure.
Councilor McFadden?
You're doing a great job,
Thank you.
but actually a key learning. I should not comment on whether anyone is doing a good job or a poor job because I'm not allowed to criticize you in public, so I should therefore not compliment you in public. But I'm going to ignore that and say you're doing a great job. So going back to, sorry, can you go back to, yeah, this slide. So the light blue is the lift station repairs, is that correct?
Light blue, holy smokes, it's good to, you're talking about
What's
the bottom
the
right
big-
corner here?
What's the biggest cost there? The 870, what is that?
That's contribution to capital.
Oh, okay, so it's going back into capital, okay.
Yeah.
And so then I kind of had a philosophy question for you, and I know you're gonna have the answer for this. The transfer from reserves. So why do we do transfers from reserves and not just keep the money in reserves to offset those costs?
This year, through the chair, sorry, to Councillor McFadden, this year we determined that transfers from reserves for a few key initiatives that I talked about on the previous water line would make more sense because they're one-time initiatives that won't happen year after year. So the Water Master Plan, a rate review that we're going through, if we fund them from reserves as a one-time investment, it makes it so that we don't need to increase the rate every year going forward.
Okay, I can follow that. Yeah, thanks for the clarity. I was just like, I don't know what the big blue is, and your chart was losing me, so thank you.
Councilor Federico?
Quick question before I lose it. Going back to the water, the 280 per month increase for 12 cubic meters is, so because water is a tiered rate, is it 280 on average? Does that make sense? Because obviously the tiers are different prices, or is it like just, you know, on top of that, it's an extra 280?
I'm happy to explain through the chair to Councillor Federico. The $2.80 per month you're seeing on this slide is representative of the fixed rate and the consumptive rate combined, considering 12 cubic meters of consumption. So it's all on the first tier, to answer your question.
Perfect, and then everything else goes up from there based on the tier. Thank you.
Please carry on.
Okay, gotta find my place here, bear with me. Okay, next one here. Now let's turn to stormwater, the utility that only becomes noticeable when it rains hard. Behind the scenes, it's doing a lot of heavy lifting. Our ponds, ditches, culverts, and drainage systems keep neighborhoods safe, prevent flooding, and help protect the environment. It's a calm system on the surface, but it plays a vital role in our everyday safety. The proposed rate adjustments result in a net total expense increase of $110,000, which translates to a 68-cent monthly increase per household. Key contributors to the change include revenue adjustments and reserve transfers, decreases of 31 cents and 15 cents respectively, reflecting growth revenue and transfers from reserves. Cost pressures, increases due to engineering fees, 15 cents, and inflation, 8 cents. Other financial obligations, payment in lieu of taxes, and an interdepartmental transfer for 36 cents. Contribution to capital, the largest single factor at 55 cents, supporting long-term infrastructure needs. Overall, the adjustments are primarily driven by capital contributions and other fixed financial obligations, partially offset by growth revenue and reserve use. Stormwater rates vary widely across the region because each municipality structures this service differently. Even so, Cochrane remains on the lower end of this range. This shows that our approach to maintaining drainage systems and managing flood risk is financially efficient while still meeting the needs of the community. Please note, Canmore and Airdrie have no separate rate for stormwater. Okay. Before we get into the details of waste collection and the Eco Center, I want to quickly highlight that 2026 will be our first full budget year under Alberta's new Extended Producer Responsibility System. For residents, nothing changes in how they sort or drop off materials, but behind the scenes, EPR shifts the cost of recycling, packaging, paper products, batteries, and hazardous materials from the municipality to the producers who create them. For Cochrane, this means new funding streams begin flowing into our waste and recycling budgets, and you'll see those reflected in the numbers on the next two slides. This slide shows the key drivers in the Eco Center budget for 2026. You'll see some natural pressures, staffing, inflation, and capital replacement funding, all tied to ensuring the facility operates safely and remains in good condition. On the savings side, we see rate reductions from growth revenue and the new EPR program. Because producers are now responsible for the recycling of packaging, paper products, batteries, and hazardous waste, these streams generate funding that comes back to the municipality. When everything is added up, these offsets fully balance the pressures, resulting in a net impact of $0 per month for the Eco Center services in 2026. This slide shows the major drivers in the waste collection budget for 2026. On the pressure side, we're seeing the usual factors: contract costs, staffing, inflation, and capital funding. But the key story this year is the new funding flowing from Alberta's Extended Producer Responsibility Program. Waste collection receives the largest share of EPR funding because curbside blue bin materials make up the bulk of what producers now have to pay for. The Eco Center receives a smaller amount to support the recycling of packaging, paper, batteries, and hazardous materials on site. Across the two programs, we're recommending that a portion of EPR funding be used to support staffing. The roles are critical for meeting the new reporting, compliance, and contract obligations under EPR, and it will also strengthen our community engagement and education efforts, something residents rely on as we continue to improve diversion. After we account for those needs, the remainder of the EPR funding, along with growth revenue, is recommended for allocation to reserves to support the community's future Eco Center expansion. This ensures we're using this new funding responsibly while addressing one of our most significant long-term infrastructure needs. Taken together, these offsets fully balance our cost pressures, resulting in a net impact of $0 per month for waste collection in 2026. This slide shows how Cochrane's waste collection and Eco Center rates compare to our neighboring communities. Even with the regional, operational, and capital needs in these programs, our rates remain competitive across the region. The added benefit of EPR funding and steady community growth helps our rates remain stable, while still maintaining strong diversion programs and reliable service. This slide brings all four utilities together into one comparison. When we look at the combined monthly utility bill across the region, Cochrane continues to fall on the lower half of the range. This is an important big picture check. Even with the investments we're making in water, wastewater, stormwater, and waste services, our overall utility costs remain competitive with neighboring municipalities. It shows that we're balancing long-term sustainability with affordability, and that the work we're doing to plan ahead is keeping us in line or below many of our regional peers. This final graph shows our combined utility rate increases over the last 10 years, from 2016 through 2026. You'll notice that the increases are modest in the earlier years, followed by larger and more frequent adjustments over the last 5 years. That's not surprising. Those increases reflect the growing need to reinvest in aging infrastructure, respond to inflationary pressures, and strengthen our capital replacement funding so we're prepared for the future. What's important to highlight is this: even with those increases, and as you saw in our intermunicipal comparisons throughout the presentation, Cochrane still sits on the lower half of our regional utility rates. In other words, our rate adjustments have been meaningful, but they have also been measured, responsible, and remain competitive with neighboring communities. This graph brings together the story of the last decade, steady progress towards sustainable funding while still maintaining affordability. Today's presentation was intended to give Council a clear, high-level look at what's driving this year's utility rate changes and how those components fit together across each service. You've also seen how Cochrane compares to our neighboring municipalities, and that even with the investments we're making, our combined utility rates remain on the lower half of the regional range. Council will receive more detailed information on each of the utility budgets this Thursday, where we can walk through the numbers in greater depth. Thank you for your time today. I look forward to supporting Council as you move into your budget deliberations, and I welcome any questions you may have.
All right, thank you. Any questions? Councillor Singh.
Thank you. Can you explain ERP? Is it a federal, provincial, or how long that project's, like the program gonna be?
Through the chair to Councillor Singh, it's a provincial program, but it started federally. I'm looking at Shane to make sure you can confirm me with a head nod there.
It is a provincial program that has been rolled out successfully in British Columbia as well as Ontario, which places the burden of recycling and recyclable products back on the producers of those products and not the residents of the municipalities.
Something of note as well too, the EPR program has let us know as we step into this that we should expect that the amount of money that we're receiving will decline year after year as they look to take over some of the services themselves and gain efficiencies.
Do you have a timeline when it's, or is it fixed for 4 years, 6 years, or?
Through the chair to Councillor Singh, we have timelines on 4 different contracts. So one of them is coming up actually next year. And then we have 2 more that we have 3 years on, and I think we have a total of 4 years on the longest contract. So they're all different time frames.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sure. At the end of the meeting.
Good evening, Mayor, members of Council. Thank you for having me present this evening on the capital budget. What we're going to talk about this evening is the process basis of how the capital budget is being, the basis of it, as well as how it was created. I know we're going to be getting to more detail, I believe, on Thursday of this week. So we'll start out with what is the capital budget. So the capital budget is about investments in our assets, meaning that not the operational items, but the infrastructure that we own as a community. So all the investments we make in infrastructure is captured within the capital budget. Infrastructure, many of you can think of roads, sewers, water main, but it also relates to buildings, our IT infrastructure as well. It's about fixing items that may be broken or that need fixing. It's about replacing items that are at the end of their life. And it's about building new infrastructure that supports our community. Capital budget funding is different from our operational funding. It is funded from a few different areas. This includes grants, levies, reserves, asset sales, as well as it can be funded from debt as well. So funding on the capital budget, while understanding it is tax dollars, it is not a direct hit to our operational budget or the tax implication. So how do we identify needs on our capital budget? It's done through a number of different ways. The first way is asset management. And when I say asset management, It's along the lines of what I had said earlier. It's about that idea of fixing assets that need to be fixed somewhere in the middle of their life, replacing the assets that are at the end of their life. And this is done through studies. So this is done through studies investigating the condition of our infrastructure, as well as through on-the-ground information through operations staff about the operations of our infrastructure, as well as our internal departments as well. This is also identified through long-range master planning. These are things like our transportation master plan, utility master plan, rec master plan, stormwater master plan, basically any master planning that looks at the long-term needs of the community, that projecting both the needs for today as well as into the future. And then finally, this is also based on community need, which I think is a lot of the conversations around the strategic priorities of council, as well as agreements that we have with our third parties in our community. So the capital budget cycle, a very, very high level overview here is as we said, we get to that point of project identification. After we've identified the project, sometimes it'll come immediately to council in the capital budget. There are some items in the capital budget this year that are about funding the need to do investigation and design so that we can come up with a fulsome solution for these projects, which is that investigation stage. We identify those costs and come forward to that capital budget at that time. There are some items in the capital budget this year that are direct funding for replacements, things such as fleet vehicles. It's very obvious, it's very easy to tell when those are at the end of life. Some more complicated problems with the infrastructure in our community require further investigation prior for us to identifying that final solution. Last piece of this conversation is how are projects selected? And when I say selected, how are projects prioritized within the budget? So what projects will we deliver in 2026, 2027, and so on? So they're all listed on the screen here, but obviously addressing imminent failure and operational needs is a high priority in the community. Growth-related need, our River Heights Reservoir is a good example of that, James Walker Trail as well. Contractual requirements to third parties, so we're currently preparing sites for the local school boards, for example. We have agreements to get that in place. And then the other two that I think are equally as important and are very applicable to this year's capital budget, the internal and external resources available to deliver the projects that are on our list. So it's very important for us that we dedicate resources appropriately so projects can be done efficiently, properly, and with the quality that the community expects. So it's very important that we resource that both internally and externally. In addition, we try to coordinate with other projects. I think many of you could agree, certainly we don't want to be the type of community that's fixing a road and then digging up again in a couple of years. So that's taken into consideration with the capital budget as well. I'll open it up to questions on the process. And as I said on Thursday, we're going to be getting into more detail on the capital budget items.
Council, any questions to kick it off? So process, we're going to go through these items one by one on the capital day, which is Thursday, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, this is correct. Like, again, we're trying a different approach here where we really want to set the stage, provide some opportunity for our directors to provide you some information so we can really hit the ground running on both Wednesday and Thursday. But we will be going through all the various projects, and Mr. Sulo will be happy to provide more context around those. But again, I think he's done a very good job of providing some context of how we got there. And again, that was sort of the level setting that we were trying to achieve tonight.
Yeah, without wanting to open up too much of a can of worms, I have questions about the Horse Creek Sports Park amenities development. How did we arrive at this this being in here, and where are we going after this? Because that 13 million isn't the whole project, but it's a sizable investment that if you're making that investment, you want to know where you're going thereafter. So what phase of the project is that? What would follow up? How come? Sorry, 156.
Thank you, Mayor. We're in the process of completing the servicing, which is the servicing of the school site and of the remainder of the site. The funding for this is for, again, I don't have the document right in front of me, but within there you can see that we're funding the landscaping, the improvements for, I can't recall if it's 4 baseball diamonds or 5 bathroom facilities and a number of other facilities there. The long-range plan for that site, I think, is still something that's being worked on, and I'm happy to bring more information back on Thursday for that.
So Ms. Ambrose will also be here, who is leading that, and will be supporting Mr. Sulo. So But it is the first phase. That is the plan that is before you.
Okay, excellent. I won't ask any follow-ups. There's lots to chat about there. Councillor Wilson?
Thank you. I just have one question about, you had a funding slide a couple back about how capital projects are funded. Specifically, I just wanted to set the table for, it could be a discussion as we come up on Thursday, but about how we're funding our infrastructure life cycling of our assets. So in particular, I'm thinking the Eagle and Patrick Drive infrastructure replacement we just went through, which was $14 million, I believe. So as we go through our community with each one of those, could we talk about just our philosophy of how we're funding them? So I guess a pie graph like this and what our plan is for future funding of those.
Thank you. Through the chair.
That's probably too big of a question for this moment, but maybe for Thursday.
Totally fair. Through the chair. Yeah, totally appreciate the question. The graph you're looking at right now is an excerpt from what the capital plan is for this year. I think in a number of those cases, we would be looking at reserve. My counterpart, Mr. Tooth, spoke about the idea of funding for reserve. So a lot of the asset life cycle renewal for rate-based assets is being funded from there, funding from grants as well as what we would be looking at in those cases as well. I would tell you every project is a case-by-case basis, and I'd point out offsite levy is an interesting one this year. There aren't a number of offsite levy projects that are being proposed this year. They were proposed under previous budgets as well, and they'll be proposed again in the future. So
You did segue to what I was also going to ask about, which was when Mr. Tooth was up there, we were talking about our utility rates funding projects like that. That linkage to that conversation would be interesting on Thursday too.
Yep, certainly can make sure we're ready for that conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you very much.
Thank
Looking
you.
forward to Thursday.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So the next few slides, I'm going to tie it all together. We've heard Mr. Tooth talk about the utility and its rates, and I've spoken on the tax-supported side. So I'd like to tie it all together into a total bill impact. So this example, it's using an average assessed value of $680,700. So for the municipal taxes, if the 3.25% was approved, this particular property would have a tax bill of $2,708.47. And the residual would come from the utilities. So for municipal taxes, the annual increase would be $85.25. The water fixed charge, the annual increase would be $30.72. Water consumption charge based on 12 cubic meters of usage would be $2.88. The wastewater fixed charge, that would be an annual increase of $32.88. The wastewater consumption charge, $10.08, and a storm sewer fee of $8.16 for a grand total of the annual increase of $169.97. In comparison, the annual increase from the 2025 budget was $162.23. So this is an increase of $7.74 from 2025. This slide now talks about the monthly increase. So building on the previous slide of the $169.97 translates into $14.16 per month. So looking at the monthly increase, the municipal tax portion, $7.10. The water fixed charge, $2.56. Water consumption charge, 24 cents. Wastewater fixed charge, $2.74. The wastewater consumption charge, 84 cents. Waste recycling organic collection is 0. The eco center is 0. And the storm sewer fee of 68 cents for a grand total of $14.68. So in comparison to the 2025 budget, the monthly increase was $13.52. That is a difference of 64 cents when you do a month-to-month comparison to 2025. So this last slide was created based on the public forum that happened this past weekend, where a number of residents had asked me, where do my tax dollars go? So I've created a spreadsheet that actually shows where their tax dollars go based on the different sections of the town's operations and the areas that the tax dollar supports the deficiency in those respective cost centers. So under development infrastructure, parks, so but going back to that, sorry, the municipal taxes is $2,708.50, which it ties into the previous slide I presented, and property assessment is $680,700. So how is that $2,708.47 broken down? By division, so development infrastructure. For parks, $161.25 of their bill goes towards parks. Roads, $289.45. Permits and planning, $11.15. Economic development, $70. Operations, $130. And asset services, which is engineering, GIS, capital projects of $29.05 for a total of $691.60. For community safety and wellness, under fire, it's $417.76. RCMP and municipal enforcement, $326.29. Recreation facilities, $206.26. Events, culture, and library, $155.07. Community and social development, $118.07. And transit of $97.41 for a total of $1,320.86. For corporate services, for finance, assessment, and information technology, $299.61. HR, health and safety, $86.56. Legislative services, $91.70. And customer administrative services of $63.21 for a total of $541.08. And the last division, office of the CAO, for council, it's $37.06. CAO, $18.48. And strategic services of $99.40 for a total of $154.93, which equals the municipal taxes of $2,708.47. So that is how their tax dollar is broken down.
Can I pause you there? Are we thinking about actually sending something like this out, or is this just for tonight's presentation?
I just wanted to show something fancy to council.
Yeah, it spurred some conversation. So Councillor Singh?
So I have a hard time understanding that 680 assessment and the taxes are $2,708. One of the residents, they own a townhouse and their assessed value is $475 approximately, and they're paying right now $2,999 property taxes. So I'm just saying where that number come from, just trying to understand, like 680 assessed value and then 2,708, so just, yeah.
Without the chair to Councilor Singh, without seeing the details of where that number came from, I would have to say that number you're using is an all-in number, which would include the school portion as well as the RVC portion. This is just the municipal taxes. So that's where the difference is coming from. The $2,708 versus the $2,900. That would, to me, that would be the difference. Is the school is not included in here. It's just the municipal tax portion.
I'm sure when they show me, they said like they're paying that much in there, but I can double check, yeah, but yeah, yeah.
The chair to Councilor Singh, I would love to see the calculation and be able to give you some better understanding.
Okay, thank you.
To provide some further clarity there, do you know approximately what percentage of a property tax bill is the province using our property taxes to collect for education? Is it about 30 or 40% or something like that?
I believe the breakdown is 33% school and RVC and 67% is municipal.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't realize 1/3 of their property taxes aren't even municipal. Councillor McFadden, were you done, Councillor Singh?
I believe in the AB munis, they said we are able to now specify that province, this is provincial or something. You can.
You're
add onto
correct,
the line,
Councillor
yeah.
Singh. There was reference that if we wanted to distinguish which portion was for the provincial education taxes and what portion was municipal, we would have the ability to do that, and we'd be happy to take that from that discussion and do that on our tax bills.
Yeah, and further to Councillor saying, we actually shared that through our communications group, was actually differentiating this year is to give our residents an understanding of what their tax bill was and what the provincial government portion was. So although it wasn't built directly into that, our communication did establish the differences and what those amounts were.
Thank you.
Councillor McFadden?
I like you making it interesting, honestly. And I think this would be a great, I don't know what the downsides are to providing this type of information in the tax bill so that people could actually understand, if it's possible, or even just to provide this as an example. I think it's really important for people to understand, where their taxes go. So having a breakout like this is amazing, as well as Councillor Singh had identified, to also be able, this is the municipal side, then this is what we're connecting on the province's behalf for the school boards. Anyhow, I would love us to be able to see if we could bring something like this into the tax bill so that people could get that information. This is a brilliant tool. And then to share off how much is from the 33% to the school boards, and I think it's all of 1 or 2% to the Rockview seniors housing. So, but yeah, if we could break that out, I think it would be great, and people can really see the value and where the points are. I mean, we all want to be safe, and it is. You can see this, that it is our safety services that are the most. The biggest.
And Councillor McFadden, I think I appreciate your comments, and again, it's just another tool for us to use, and it shows the investment that they're making, or we're making on their behalf with their tax dollars. So I think it's really important. So again, we wanted to share this evening with you.
Nicely done. Thank you.
Anything else? Councillor McDonald?
I agree with what's been said. This is really helpful. And I saw lots of really great infographics tonight that I was wondering if we're planning to send those out publicly as well. They certainly helped me understand a few things tonight. So I think the more we can share, the better.
And I would say that's a combination of the great staff that we have, and certainly communications, I know would like to give them a great deal of credit for the work this past weekend with the engagement. The boards were excellent, just to take people to and explain things as we went around the room was really valuable. So we will be sharing that. Again, civic literacy is something that's really important to us, and just the business that we do, everybody doesn't understand, but we're more than happy to discuss it and provide some different tools.
Great.
Mr. Blanchette?
I think you'll see some of those images in that budget document that I spoke of previously, that's what we call the citizens operating budget. So we're going to pull some of that into it because it does tell a really great story and simplifies that message. So you'll see a few of those in there for sure.
Yeah, and I'd love if we could actually send something like this out. It's very informative. In terms of downsides, I don't know if I call it downside, but certainly the risk is people are going to get this and think, well, this entire department, I'd rather have my $400 instead of that, or whatever department. But I still think it would have a lot of value if we could send something like this out and include the provincial portion as well. But is it possible we could have a conversation about putting together something like this that would be sent out? They could go to comms and get dressed up even further. And
I would recommend, Mr. Mayor, perhaps let's put that in the parking lot and we can explore it and have some further discussions as we go forward. But again, this was something that we wanted to share, and appreciate your feedback on it.
I love it. Park it in the parking lot, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
So Council, this really is the wrap up and next steps. We wanted to do a little bit of a different approach. We're happy to get a little bit of feedback on your thoughts on this evening. Again, normally, as you recall, we would have a committee of the whole meeting, have a completely different agenda, and we would jump into the budget deliberation on Wednesday. However, we thought it was really important to do some level setting put everyone, provide a great deal of information that puts you all at the same space as we go into our discussions on Wednesday. So we would begin at 9 o'clock. We're going to take breaks throughout because it's quite intense, as some of the members of council know, and for our new members of council, there's a lot of information. Obviously, the book that you've received is massive, but we are dedicated to the next 2 days in terms of the 19th and 20th, really diving into this. Look forward to your feedback, and we welcome any feedback that you have this evening, but this is really an outline of our next steps.
So Councilor McFadden had already asked about an opportunity to comment on the whole process. So it's a good time for everybody to do that now, but I saw Councilor Fedayko has a comment first.
I just have a couple of comments about the budget, maybe a couple of questions. I really appreciate the fact that we were given that big handout breaking out the costs of each section, right, council. That was done in 2025, and then all of a sudden this year it wasn't. And it is very difficult sometimes when we're not consistent. And so I would like us to work at finding consistency within the budget books from year to year to year, because I find it difficult sometimes to track, right? All of a sudden it's in this one, it's not in that one. The other thing that I have a question about is accruals. We have some projects, especially capitally, that date back almost 10 years. They're still remain living within the budget. Just, I want to try to understand why they aren't taken out so that they aren't living there for 10 years without being updated. Also, it would be great to have an audit amount. Like we have, 2024 reinstated, we have 2025, but we have no actual tracking back to the actual audit, which I'd like to see. And will those numbers be reinstated publicly that have been reinstated? Are they going to be changed for the public document? So I have a few questions and comments, maybe.
Yeah, and certainly I think through the chair to Councilor Fedayko, we can take those items away. I think to your first question, consistency, that is our objective. This is how we want some feedback, so when we look to present in future years, we're presenting all the material is consistent, and then everyone has an understanding and builds on that. Of course, we are collaborating as a team, trying to get the best outcome for the community. How we can do that better, provide that information to the community, have better engagement, those are all our objectives. So yes, we'll do that, and then the other questions, we can work with our financial team to get those answers over the next couple of days.
And I can send them in as well, just so that,
Please.
to council as well, and then everybody has them, and then you can kind of maybe just help fill in the blanks when we come back.
And then in terms of the questions that you're submitting, I would just reinforce with council how important that is for us. We want to be as prepared as possible to provide you the information. So if you can provide those questions in advance, we can prepare, and we have people recording them, and then be prepared to share that information rather than taking it away.
Perfect,
So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor McFadden?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of points I wanted to go through, but I wanted to first start and just clarify that my earlier comments around the budget and any leadership changes was mostly coming from is coming entirely from a space of making sure that Mr. Hyman has the resources and the flexibility he has to create the best team. So relying on Mr. Hyman's judgment to make sure he's got the best team, that's where my comments were coming from, just to make sure that all of the resources and time that Mr. Hyman needs to make those calls, I was supportive of. So if anybody has any questions about that, that's where I was coming from, is confidence in Mr. Hyman's leadership. So then 2 points as we're moving into the budget process then. I think if anybody's been following some of my concerns in recent years, has been about our reserve levels. And as we look ahead, we can see a lot of the things that our community both needs and wants really do require us to have, either we're going to have to borrow with the extra impacts of borrowing rates, or if we save now, we'll be in a stronger position to deal with that. So I think folks know that I've always been a big advocate for investing and delivering on our parks and recreation spaces, and of course we've seen the need for a new library, so also the culture spaces. We are getting that master plan coming back to us, I believe, later this year.
Correct.
Still, So all of this to say, I am concerned that our reserve contributions are not in place yet. And so I will be advocating through this budget that we can either add an extra $1 million to our reserves in general, or have council support to create a Parks and Recreation Culture Reserve where we can dedicate the $1 million. I understand that would be an increase to the proposed tax rate, but I think it is fiscally responsible for us to start saving now for those big projects that we know is coming down the pipes towards us. It's been identified that we are going to be getting the next level of the fiscal framework policies in the spring, but I don't want to miss this budget cycle preparing for the future. So I am advocating for an extra $1 million to be added to the budget somehow so that we can start saving. I look forward to discussions with my colleagues around that. I have also shared with you through our orientation and different conversations, and again, anybody who's been following my work, I'm a big advocate for civic engagement, civic literacy, finding different ways to empower our residents to be part of the solution, which is why in the spring I had advocated a suite of civic leadership and engagement initiatives. There was a report came back in the summer that outlined the options of those. I disagree with the budget forecast in that. One of the things I am advocating for in this budget would be to find ideally $50,000 in the existing budget to support the rollout of these pieces, which would include the Leadership Cochrane program, the Community Association engagement piece, creation of a mayor's or council youth council, which I know is important to leave everybody around the table, finding a new way to increase that youth representation on our committees, and also leaning into a citizen panel piece. So some initial work was done by the team in the spring. I would like to find money in the budget to implement that in 2026. So I just wanted to highlight a couple of budget changes that I'm going to be advocating for through there, and reflecting my priorities around recreation, culture, and empowering our residents. And to also make clear that I appreciate and value all of the great work that I've seen from the team so far tonight. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Councilor McFadden. I just wanted to confirm we've put those items in the parking lot, and we'll revisit those. So thank you for your suggestions.
Any further comments from council? Councilor Gill.
I don't know if you can answer this right now. It might be wrong time to maybe ask this, but are our specifically, this came to me during utility talk, are our utility reserves growing at a rate that matches asset depreciation? Or are we falling behind? Are we going to be behind in terms of upgrading and maintaining our infrastructure down the line?
Councilor Gale, I think I can get some more information from Mr. Tooth on this, but I think that's why we're doing the utility rate review, just to make sure that I think there's, you saw the graph that he shared today and the work that we've done to date. We're trying to make sure that we're ahead of the curve, and certainly the rate review will assist us in that.
Thank you.
A couple of things that I'm going to be looking for in the coming days. I really wanted to get nailed down the details on our debt strategy. In last year's budget that was approved, we were on track to hit our municipal debt limit. The opening night of this term, we got sworn in. I confirmed that that was still the case. A week later, this draft budget came back, and it was no longer the case. And so I want to be able to go to the public and really explain to the public what strategy has been implemented to change that, and then also get a really strong sense for how many capital projects we're going to be able to add on in the years to come, should this council decide that there's more stuff we want to add onto the plan. And to that end, I did want to confirm, is there something in here for a transportation study to start planning additional municipal traffic projects?
Yes, so there is the initial steps for a transportation master plan within that. Mr. Sulo, as he comes on Wednesday, we'll be able to share more details on that. But that was something always that, following the conclusion of the interchange project, we felt was really important. Traffic continues to be a challenge in our community, and just having an updated plan would be in our best interest.
Okay. Any other questions? Any high-level tone setting, intention setting, questions? I see your hand by your button. Are you pushing it? Okay. I would say I really appreciated this quick 3-hour overview to get the ball rolling on the conversation. It kind of sets the tone for everything we need to discuss in the days to come. So I thought this was a helpful way to start the whole process. So thank you very much for putting it together. And thank you everyone for your time. And with that, do we have anything else to discuss?
No, just thank you for the feedback. Certainly, the team put a tremendous amount of work. I know a number of us were at AB Munis. The team was very busy working behind the scenes, getting this ready, and then the presentations that you will see Wednesday, Thursday are of same great quality. So we're excited to have this discussion and to collaborate with council and continue this discussion on Wednesday. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, with that, this meeting is adjourned.